Let's, okay, let's get started with the pledge.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Seeley,
Here.
McGraw,
Here.
Detterman,
Here.
O'Neill,
Here.
Connell,
Here.
Allison.
Here.
Councilman Connell.
Thank you. Your Honor, I guess, maybe? Yeah. All right, good.
He'll take it.
He'll take
Today,
that.
yes.
Good, all right. I move to dispense with the reading of the regular council meeting minutes and the committee of the whole minutes of May 24th, 2016, and that they be approved as published on June 7th, 2016.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
We'll start out tonight with a public hearing. I convene a public hearing concerning the sale of property at 315 Second Avenue North. Any,
We've not heard anything, Your Honor.
anyone from the public? I move that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Do I just, Councilman Allison?
I move that the public hearing concerning the sale of property at 315 Second Avenue North be entered into the record.
Second. Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allison?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a resolution approving sale of 315 Second Avenue North. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Any comments? Roll call vote?
Councilmembers McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
I convene a public hearing concerning the accepting bid and awarding contract for project K 2016 parentheses B Street Reclamation and Chip Seal Project. Have we heard anything?
We have not,
Clerks?
Your Honor.
Anyone from the public? I move this public meeting be closed. Councilman Seeley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that a public hearing concerning accepting bid and awarding contract for the project K-2016B Street Reclamation and Chip Seal Project be entered into the record.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes.
Councilman Seeley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution accepting bid and awarding contract to Detterman Asphalt Paving LLC for project K-2016B Street Reclamation and Chip Seal Project for $129,000, $750.55. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Anyone have any comments? Ed?
I looked on this thing, I looked at the resolution. Where are we doing this? Is it on one street, 5 streets? What? What?
Yeah, Jason Kraft, city engineer. This is just mainly in the area down by the there's like the All Pets clinic, and there's a dentist office down there and across the street. 13th and 14th Avenue South, both sides of Manufacturing Drive, some of 18th Street, over in that neighborhood. It's a lot of gravel type roads that were chip seal, and then for one reason or another, like 10 years ago, they stopped chip sealing them. So in order to get them back to like real roads, we need to do this. There's some other roads in there too. 12th Street behind the college there in Lawndale, another gravel street, and then Pleasant Valley Lane, which is a gravel road up near College Avenue, I guess. That's where that is.
It's just helpful to know. 'cause
Yeah.
When, especially there, All Pets, that's my veterinarian. If they ever ask me, I'd probably say, well, someday they'll probably do it. And then, you show up 2 weeks later with this project.
No, I
They'll think
understand.
I'm a genius, and I'm not.
We'll, yeah, neither are we, but we'll send out letters to everybody and explain the project to them and explain, why we're doing it and what it entails, and then,
Okay.
so we'll get that PR out there.
Jason, like this project isn't basically in the 5-year,
No. These are one of the things I talked about at the last council meeting, with road use tax. There's some preventative maintenance, chip seal, micro surfacing, and crack sealing. And this is some of that. Now, the reclamation is kind of an added thing. We shouldn't have to do that much more after this year. That's just trying to, I guess, construct a road base out of the existing materials that are there, if that makes sense. And sometimes we have to add some gravel. But so, those 3 areas of street construction and street maintenance are paid out of road use tax.
so we'll actually be doing more than the list we have of streets.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
These are just more or less maintenance. It's not a massive improvement, but they'll see a
To the people, it
difference.
will be.
It will be. In that neighborhood, they'll see a big difference.
They're gonna take care of the ambets too, the street run alongside of it.
Runs east and west.
Yeah. But the south-north one,
We just
You did.
we just did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, that's right.
Jason, I've had some people ask me about 8th Avenue South, the 400 block, or 700 and 800 block of 9th Avenue South, and the 4th Avenue South.
Yeah, that was, well, 9th Avenue South is an ongoing project that's occurring as we speak. They just milled the asphalt off the top. They're doing some sewer repairs, and they'll be paving that back probably next week.
In the 8 and
And then-
900 blocks?
This is
probably
between
mostly the
6th and,
eighth.
this is between 6th and 9th, I think.
Oh, good,
Is what that
okay,
is.
Okay,
But then so then 8th Avenue South, that was on a previous bid letting. It's just we're doing a thin overlay on that.
oh, you are doing it,
Has, like I said, like a 5 to 7 year lifespan expectancy, and we can chip seal that if need be, if we don't have the funds to pay for the road construction and sewer separation project that's necessary in those blocks. And then 4th Avenue South, we know that in 7 to 10 years, that's gonna be a full reconstruction and sewer separation. So I think I said this before, but it doesn't matter. We're doing another thin overlay on that project too, on 4th Avenue, this year, between like 4th Street and Bluff.
okay, but you
I
are
think.
doing it this year,
Yeah, that'll be
thank you.
coming up soon.
It's the ones I get most calls on.
Yeah, it's, thank you.
Any other roll call?
Councilmember Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes,
Now is the time for audience comments. Do we have any turned in that want to speak?
No, Your Honor.
Does anyone want to speak to the city council? Geez, that's a shame. We'll move on. Councilman Connell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented on the attachment.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to pull number 1.
Okay.
I'd like to pull number 7.
Number 7. Ed?
2, 10, 15, and 18.
2, 10.
15 and 18.
Geez, I hate to ask anybody else.
That covers all of them.
Is there anything left?
Have roll call on the rest?
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes,
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an ordinance for first consideration. An ordinance amending the code of ordinances.
Second.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And then we vote.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I have roll call?
Councilmember Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
yes,
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Okay. An ordinance for first consideration, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Clinton, of Iowa by deleting chapter 79A for resident permit parking districts. I move this ordinance be approved as presented.
Second.
think we're done with it. Just for the public information, that is to, we're going to do away with the parking up around the Ashford area. Okay, just let the public know that. Councilman McGraw.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution authorizing issuance of deed for property at 435 Sixth Avenue South to Stan T. Canocapa, the third. I move that the resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think that, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, this is the one where he actually was supposed to get the property quite a long time ago, right?
Correct. The city sold him the property in 2006, and it seems like going back at that time, it was the process to allow the purchaser to record the deed. The deed was never recorded.
Okay. Now, and we've tried to contact him, and he's unreachable.
Correct.
So we're going to file this basically with Recorder's Office. That'll be our procedure, but then we don't know if this gentleman wants it anymore, or?
We've not been able to reach him. He's not responded to our letters or communications, and so in conjunction with the city attorney, it was determined that because he had rightfully bought the property, paid for the property, the property belongs to him. The easiest way to resolve this was to record a deed that actually transfers the property to him just 10 years later.
Okay. 2 more questions. Has he been maintaining it then?
I have no idea. It's not something that's been on our nuisance list.
Okay.
It was one that was just
It's a-
discovered as I was going through some old files
Yeah.
and was trying to figure out if it was indeed a parcel we still own.
It's a very small lot. I think it's only 33 foot wide, so the neighbor may be taking care of it. Secondly, I guess we lost out on tax money for 10 years, huh?
That's true. That's why we're re-recording, or we're recording the deed for the first time through this process, because as I stated, he had legally purchased the property back in 2006.
Okay.
Is it a vacant lot?
Yes.
It's an empty lot, yes.
So it's probably a couple $100.
Taxes?
Yeah. When you
I didn't compute them all. It's assessed as 6,000 something. So it's a pretty good jag of money, you know. Anyhow, and we don't know if he lives in town or if he's.
No, he still lives in town. We were able to find a recent
Okay.
address for him.
Okay.
He just never responded to any of our communications.
Okay, so it's not adjoining this property then?
No.
Okay.
So maybe he'll read it in the paper,
Well,
Or he's watching right now.
watching now or listening to the radio.
If he's watching right now, I apologize for his name.
okay. That's all. Thank you.
Roll call vote then.
Councilmember Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Councilman Connell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving a budget modification, removing an approved fiscal year 2017 transfer to the general fund. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second?
Discussion?
You want to clarify? For
Just to-
everybody? Yeah.
Yes, somebody should.
Just to clarify, I guess this would be moving that $95,000 from the amenities fund, marine amenities fund, back to the general, back to the marine amenities fund that we had moved during the budget process to the general fund, correct?
Correct.
Yep, okay.
No other comments? We'll have roll call vote.
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
No.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Councilman Seeley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving the budget modification for adding a trolley route on Saturdays only. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
I'll make a couple comments,
Okay.
Your Honor. We had decided to put the trolley on a Saturday route, and that's in process, and they're getting it ready. So this resolution is for the Saturday route only. So I'm hoping that we can do other things with it in the meantime, but that's to be determined. So this goes back quite a ways now, so I'm happy to see us moving forward with something on this and getting it out in the community, so.
Julie, would you kind of tell the public what, do you know what the route is?
No,
Kind of.
I don't really.
Oh, okay.
I think it starts at Riverfront, goes up Second Avenue, Second Street to Main Avenue. It might go to the Sawmill Museum, down Main Avenue, comes back down,
Mill Creek,
goes out to Mill Creek, comes back near the Arboretum.
Second Avenue South.
Second Avenue to the Arboretum, comes back around past the Women's Club, and I believe down past the Historical Society and back to the Riverfront.
It hits Eagle Point as
Yeah.
well.
That, okay, and
Yeah.
Eagle Point.
Don't forget that.
I just wanted to let the public know, you know, what that route would be. Roll call vote?
Councilmember O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman.
Yes. Councilwoman McGraw.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I have a resolution approving budget modifications for a part-time nuisance inspector. I move that the resolution be adopted as presented.
Second?
Discussion? I think somebody should explain to the public a little more of what it is. You want to go ahead?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
I'd be more than willing to go ahead. And then Battalion Chief Chapman can add to this. This was something that was really, I would say, a citizen-initiated complaint that was on the committee of the whole last week for discussion. This year is by far the worst year that we have seen for weeds and grass complaint, and I think there were some council members who experienced it the day after in a neighborhood that nobody really thought they would see a weed and grass complaint, which really shows that this is a problem that's not just in certain neighborhoods or anything anymore. It's a citywide problem. The idea is to bring on someone as a part-time nuisance inspector from functionally like July 1st to September 30th, which is when things are heavy with the caseload that we have. They would not just be doing grass and weeds, that would be their focus, but we would be training them to do other things as well, because we do have a lot of other complaints that come in besides just grass and weeds. And so the idea would be for 40 hours a week for that 3-month time period. I believe the estimated wage cost was $8,200 for that period. And we'll see how it works. I think we'd all like to believe that perhaps next year it won't be as bad, but we'll be more on top of things and evaluating how this works out in preparation for the next budget cycle.
And I have a question then, if you get a call on the grass, how long is it before we actually mow it?
It depends, the first time.
Yeah.
The first time requires the certified letter. Everybody gets that certified letter the first time with, is it a 12-day turnaround on?
Right now, we're about 6 to 9 days out. We got a 5-day posting. If the letter gets picked up the first time, it's about 6 to 9 days. If it's not picked up, then it extends it out until that three attempts are made. Could be from 9 days to about 27 days.
It could be up to a month.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way we could we just go mow the first time while this process is going on and
I-
not charge them? I'm
I-
just saying to clean up, it just seems like it takes forever.
You could, but then effectively you've abated the nuisance, and so you're informing them of a nuisance that no longer exists. And so it's that necessary due process step that we have to have in order
The
for
public
protect
just can't
ourselves.
realize there's gotta be a better solution.
I agree.
I think they're.
I don't think it's really due process. I mean, it's taking so long, right? It just seems like it takes.
It's,
You got a nuisance inspector that's gonna be on, they said it takes about a month, but now they're gonna be on for 3 months, 4 months. You know, how much are they gonna be able to resolve throughout that time
For
period?
grass.
Yeah,
You're
it's
right.
tough.
I mean, that's
But-
something to think about.
But you figure that most of those first-time letters went out probably in May. That for the most part, once they get that initial
Yeah.
notice and that we've followed everything that we need to follow in terms of that initial notice, then it is basically, we don't have to notify them any further of a continuing nuisance, and we can go ahead and
maybe
abate that.
we need to get to that first one earlier.
I mean-
It's 8 inches is 8
Well,
inches. And
But I meant,
Yeah.
It came early this year.
yeah, I mean, cause it's just, the public just, it's
We-
the
we
worst
have-
I've ever seen it.
We have more than, I'd get a percentage for you, but it's way more than half of the grasses that we do, we don't just do one time.
Yeah,
Very
you do.
few do we do one time, and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get to it. Then people usually get the notice, they mow the lawn. When we're doing them, we're typically doing them over and over, so once that one's out there, Now they're about every 2 weeks or so, they
That's what
should
I
be
thought,
getting
just
mowed.
mow it, cause they're gonna keep
Right.
What's the,
ignoring it.
does the fine increase? Or does
There-
anything increase when we do that?
No, I mean, there isn't a fine, what we're doing is we're leaning the cost of
I
the
mean-
property, we abate the nuisance, and so no, it's gonna be the same charge each time, from our contractor, more than likely, unless it's longer one time than another, it takes longer in terms of man hours.
Do we not have a way to enforce a civil penalty
We-
prior to that? You
we-
know, so if it's $45 to get the lawn mowed, can we issue them a $45 and hey, we'll go ahead and mow the lawn? You know, that way we can pay the contractor.
Well, I think
So
what
it's
you're
done in a-
talking about
in a
in terms
quicker
of civil
timeframe?
citation, that's something we can do, but the thing to remember about a lot of the properties we're talking about, abandoned, no functional owner of the property. And so when you keep that in mind, who is it that you're going to take to court and charge?
I think this goes back to, we discussed looking into the neighborhood coalitions and getting people to work together. And when's that gonna be on the committee of the whole?
More than likely June 28th, this was a heavy agenda to try and add some
Oh,
additional
yeah,
things to
yeah.
it.
I mean, this is a Band-Aid, we all know that.
Yeah.
It's not really solving any issues, so we really need to get to the root cause of it, and I think a discussion on some alternatives are gonna help us all, so.
Okay.
Jeff, do you anticipate having any problem finding somebody that's wanting a full-time job for 3 months, as opposed to maybe getting a part-time person all year long?
Well, I've had 4 or 5 phone calls already
Oh,
from the
okay.
committee of the whole meeting that said, hey, I heard that you're gonna have a part-time spot, it's perfect for me.
You
I'm
got my
looking
message
for it.
then, huh?
About 4 or 5 people have called requesting it,
Okay.
so.
Maybe they go
I
to
don't,
Flo-
I
maybe
don't
they go to Florida in the
anticipate
winter.
a problem having,
Well, if you
people
do,
apply.
I guess we can consider something else.
sure.
How proactive are the nuisance officers in that? I know they respond to a lot of phone calls, but is it something that they're on maybe a route or something that they're traveling the city once a week or?
Well,
So many hours a week?
I'll give you an example of just today, okay? Went out to an inspection at 1 o'clock, or at 1 o'clock, I had a meeting on the west end of town and did 7 grass on the way back. And at the same time, I did 8 roof inspections on the way back because I was gonna be out there. That's the same thing that she does. When
Okay.
she goes out to one complaint, and if it's in the middle of your block, she's gonna police the entire block to make it fair. We don't know who the complaint came in from. So what she does to make it fair, she does the entire block. And let me tell you, that ruffles some feathers. Why are you doing me? Well, we do the whole block. So we do have that. But it's so spread out that, I drove home today and found another 4 and thinking, why? How did I miss this? Or how do we get this? And I knocked on the door and the neighbor said, well, I don't want to complain, and that's what we have. It's frustrating.
But just to kind of give you an idea that this gets carried on way past 4 o'clock. I picked up my packet, it's like 7:15 on Friday. There was a light on in B&S, and I thought, well, I pushed it, the door was open, and I called in there and asked, and I said, hello? And she came out, she was actually calling people to schedule lawn cuttings for this week. That's at 7:15.
Where he
at night.
was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I guess if they get the second one, maybe part of they can do some of the calling, if she's there that late trying to see, because everybody wants these mowers, and so I think B&S is going way beyond what they, normally do. When you find someone there Friday night, most people are down at the riverfront at finally Fridays, and she's trying to schedule people to cut grass, so, I think they're doing a great job, and they're doing what they can do, so.
I was in here Saturday morning, and there was a light on in there, so I poked my head in.
Well, remember, we're at the time of year right now where every other
Spring
Saturday,
home.
we have an inspector in the office every
Oh,
other
you
Saturday.
do?
Every other
Okay.
Saturday, right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes,
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allison.
Your Honor, I have a resolution, official City of Clinton endorsement of the COPS Office Grant application for fiscal year 2017. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second?
Discussion? Again, for the public, you just want to,
Yes, this is something that we discussed quite in depth during budget time, and there is a federal program, the community-oriented policing program at the federal level, which does provide $125,000 per new officer for a period of 3 years. And so we are eligible to apply for 2, and that's what the resolution before you is tonight, to apply for 2 new police officers under this grant program.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Alessi,
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution requesting the assignment of multiple county-held tax certificates. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Probably give just a short what it is again.
We're gonna get these certificates from the county, and then you've got some people that might be interested. We're gonna do by a bid process.
Correct. There's a kind of a lengthy period before we can get to the point that we actually have the property and are able to resell it, but that would be the idea, that all of these have come forward because I have somebody who has indicated interest. There's another one that I'm checking on, so I hope to have another resolution before you on the June 28th meeting for another property as well.
If you wouldn't mind, since we're gonna put it out to bid, I wouldn't mind reading the addresses for the public's information. When these certificates become available, and this is I think the part of the state code where we said the wording that they shall, so it's really, we're requesting something that they just need to pass on and give us the certificates for it. The first one will be for 617 3rd Avenue South, parcel 80008000. The next one is 2026 McKinley Street, be parcel 860030000. And the next one is for on Beaver Island, and there's no address, but the parcel is 8072750000. The next one is 212 2nd Avenue South, parcel 80-1281000. And the last one will be 1427 25th Avenue South, parcel 80-05870000. So, when we get those certificates, they will be up for bid if the public's interested. That's all I have to say.
What kind of time frame how long do we have to hold on to these?
There is a 90-day period from the point when the county says, we will do this to, we have to notify all potential lien holders and then wait 90 days. So that's where we're probably going to be well into the fall before we're talking about some sealed bid processes.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Alessi,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Councilman Connell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving a new liquor license application for Buffalo Wild Wings, Sunday sales privilege, outdoor service privilege, and issuance of a Class 1 letter of exemption for allowing persons under 21 in licensed premises. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Alessi.
Yes.
Councilman Seeley.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution supporting the Victory Center's grant application for affordable housing program. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Ed?
Is there any M&L involved in this, or is this just a straight grant from someplace?
It's a grant. There is no matching part of the city at this point. This is just really to show local government support for their application.
Okay, thank you.
No further comments? Roll call vote?
Councilmember Alessi,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Unfinished business. I guess we start with, back to the consent agenda, number 1.
I'd like to pull that.
You did.
Okay.
Pulled it, what do you
Yep.
wanna do with it?
I'm gonna abstain.
Huh.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
you
there was
just
a
want-
number,
yeah,
there was
okay.
another one in there, sorry, it was,
We got-
it was inside of it, so,
Yeah, do you wanna
yeah.
No,
make a motion to approve it then?
Okay, I'll move we approve the claims as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilmember Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes,
Detterman?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Abstain.
Allison?
Yes.
Did you have another one?
No, I think that was it. Somebody else had 7, or number 2.
Number 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go to number 2.
That
Ed?
was me. This was on the advisory committee meeting. And in reading all these, I got down to the paragraphs down below. I'll read those in the records. In regards to non-compliant curbs and lack of curb cuts at 9th Avenue North, 8th Avenue North, and Roosevelt, the city administrator reported for the city engineer that the contractor was not coming back to repair the curb cuts, and the city would need to hire another contractor to complete the project. These two corners are not compliant with the 2010 standards, and the project was just completed. So I have a problem with that paragraph. In the next paragraph, the non-compliant businesses, and I won't go through those, but it was reported by Jeff Chapman that these businesses were sent letters to comply with the ADA. However, they've not complied, and there's nothing been done. This was not the first time the issue's been discussed. Well, in the first paragraph I read, if we just had a contractor complete a project and they're non-compliant, do we need to claw back on the contractor and get someone to fix it? And on the second one, I think when things come up like this, and maybe I'm over judging, but I think when the head of BNS has sent letters to comply and they get ignored and nothing's been done, I think he needs to, seek out council support to do something. So I guess those two things were kind of troubling, that there's non-compliance with several businesses and they need to comply, and that the contractor needs to be.
I think the city engineer's statements there were taken a little bit out of context in terms of the way they showed up in the minutes. We just had this discussion at our meeting last Thursday, that there are some issues here with making that area completely accessible because the railroad tracks have no room for a sidewalk to come across them. The city engineer did acknowledge that there are some curb ramps that were completed, that were not compliant, and I believe no payment was made for those curb ramps either. Is that correct, Jason?
Yeah, that's all.
And so we have not paid for something that was either not done or not done correctly. And so that's where we're in a situation where there's still some areas along Roosevelt that we need to repair those curb ramps. But there's some other accessibility issues that are presented there because there's not currently an accessible route across the railroad tracks at 9th Avenue North and in Roosevelt area.
But I hate, I don't want misconstrue. I mean, I read these, and so when I read these, when you read them on their face, is that the contractor just left us with 3 or 4 bad corners that are non-compliant, and we're just sitting there with our twiddling our thumbs, and so that's not what comes out of the meetings. And the others, when, like I said, when our department head sends letters and they get ignored.
Well, and that's, again, this was something that was talked about at our meeting last week. We're to the point on some of those there's been progress on, others there haven't, and we're to the point of sending a letter threatening the revocation of a certificate of occupancy over what I would call some minor issues. So we're hoping that that's really the final administrative step that we have to take, and that's the point where they will react, because we would have the ability to shut them down for not being compliant with ADA. But those 3 that are listed, or 4 that are listed, there are active conversations with 3 of the 4 that are still happening and progress being made. There's just really one at this point that has not had any progress.
I just want BNS to know they got the council support to follow through and stuff. Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion that the number 2, the ADA Advisory Commission minutes be approved as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes,
I didn't put on who pulled number 7.
me.
Councilman McGraw.
I have is somebody from the fire department here?
Either Anita or I can answer questions on this.
Okay, what happened with February of 16 that we had such a big contractual adjustment?
February 16 contractual adjustment. What I would tell you to look at is there's kind of two different sheets that are happening here, and you have to, there's really not anything, much for February of 16. There are only payments and adjustments that could have been made in February of 16 on the front page. When you look on the back page is where it's showing other things happening. So those adjustments could have been, I mean, that's generally, insurance adjustments. We bill a certain amount, Medicaid, writes down to what they're going to pay, Medicare writes down to what they're going to pay, insurance companies write down to what they're going to pay. And so, there's very few entities that actually pay what our charges are, and most of those adjustments, that's where they're coming from. I can contact our billing, company to figure out, why was there more in February. My guess would be that you're talking about things usually a few months delayed, and so if you look at December of 15, there's hardly any activity there in terms of, what was happening in terms of adjustments. So my guess is that it just took a little bit for months to catch up with themselves.
Well, like September of 15 was really, really low, so, okay, all right, I just read it and wondered. Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve.
oh, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes,
Detterman.
Yes. Councilman O'Neill, number 10.
Yep, thank you, Your Honor. Number 10 is the plans and specs for 13th Avenue North Traffic Safety Improvement Project, S 2016. I couldn't find anything of what this plan is. It's not in the back, I couldn't find it in the front, and I'm not being
No, I know.
facetious, I
didn't-
mean,
We,
but
we
we could-
didn't, I didn't put a council report together just because we talked about it so many times, I thought, but I'm sorry. It's the 3 laning and the traffic signalization on 13th Avenue from 2nd to 4th Street. And, it's funded by the DOT. It's like a $200 and some thousand project.
Okay.
It'll be done as soon as, possible after the asphalt is paved and the, sidewalks are all done. That striping will go down as 3 lane, and then once the poles and stuff are in, they'll be installed late November.
Okay. I just
Sorry about that.
obviously didn't remember, I just didn't wanna find a pool in the middle of 13th. Okay.
It's gonna be, November 206, just so you know, so. I'm not sure.
What is it, what?
That's what it says, November 30th, 206, so. No, 206, so we're going way back. Yeah.
What are you looking at? Is there something?
There's, I think to do some clarification, you wouldn't have found anything for number 10 actually in the packet,
I
but
did,
number 17 is the resolution setting the public hearing and describing the project. All plans and specs are placed on file with the city clerk, but generally we're talking about plan sets that are rather large for your packet. So the city clerk has those on file and adds this item to the
Yeah,
agenda.
I saw 17, but 17 did say 3 striping, doing 3-lane striping on between Fourth and Second. I had no idea what this whole project 2016 was. I mean, there's nothing in here that tells you what it is, all the way down.
yeah, well, it's one of these, I had it.
I remember talking about it, but when we're approving it and it's in a consent agenda, I'm just not gonna blindly say, okay. I need to know what we're spending the money on, okay? It's fine.
So from now on, Jason will put some kind of memo in
Yeah,
there
3
for us.
striping Second Avenue would be fine, or 13th Street.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. You gotta consider age here. I'm not, I don't remember.
Well, a lot of what we do, we try and
Yeah.
bring to the public too, so.
Yeah, so they know what's going on.
So you wanna make-
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve number 10 as presented.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're on 15, resolution awarding a bid to Atlantic Track and Turnout for the purchase of materials in Lincoln Way Rail Park and Lincoln Way Rail and Air Park. I guess some of this is cost matching, and we've got so much money left in a fund, and we're doubling the price of it so we can match it. I guess my concern is, not concerned, I'm just wondering, there's no cost sharing on any of this. I mean, we cost shared on all the engineering we needed to do to get the park approved. We had people come to us for that. We've had the county come to us to do cost sharing on communications things. But when things like this, we've got partners in this, and there's other people that are gonna benefit from this. I just surprised that we're not getting some kind of cost sharing from the partners we've got in the rail park. So, I don't know if anyone can answer that, and if this is the case, we're putting in these switches. If we're gonna own these switches solely, is there plans to get reimbursement for cars going across that switch when the park opens?
Yes, so, the thing to remember is that the city is the, owner of the rail in the park, and that goes back to the point where it connects with the Union Pacific Main Line. Those have been our projects, that's our asset. The two switches, again, those will be our assets as well, and same with anything that we're purchasing here. I would like to say, this is only purchasing of materials, for future projects. There is a track use agreement that our city attorney is working on, basically to be done in conjunction with NRM and Rail One. And that's basically the fees that you charge for the cars that go across, so that we have we can recoup some money in order to fund the future maintenance. But the grant dollars were city grant dollars that we applied for originally back in 2009, and so there was not another funding partner contemplated from 2009 to where we are with this project right now.
But this is a brand new project, put the switch in, we're using those dollars, and I wanna make sure it's in the track agreement that we're putting that in, and that at some point, we'll have some kind of agreement of, as each car goes across that switch, we get some kind of revenue for it.
And I was gonna say, this actually, it's not new. The original grant application did have, basically switch installation and a few other things. If it was new, we couldn't even use the grant funds for it. So we had to go back to something that was in that original 2009 grant application. And fortunately, there was a project, for the switch installation and additional track, which was spec'd in there, not in detail, because it wasn't something that was going to be completed with that 2009 project. But yes, that's the intent of what the city attorney is working on, is to ensure that we receive some fee, so that we can fund future maintenance of all track that will be in the park that does belong to the city.
This is basically track to go north and then go west.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can you clarify, have we had the funds since 2009?
Yeah, so this was
So why
part
did
of
we
a.
take us 7 years to
So
spend it?
this was part of a much larger grant application. Most of the funds which were spent on, I believe it was the project to actually get the
Spur in.
the spur off
into
the
the park.
main line. That was a majority of the project. In 2012 or it actually might have been 2013 or 2014, there was a potential prospect that CRDC had, and at that time we asked to repurpose the funds to potentially put the spur in with these additional funds, put a spur in that would be going to the east. To the north of Clinton County Bioenergy. That project never materialized, and it was in March of this year that our contact with the DOT grant office notified us that we had until June 30th to spend those funds. And so That's where we scrambled and went back to, is there anything that we actually could spend these funds on that was contained in the project, in the original grant award, knowing that there was no way that we'd be able to do an installation project because of the time constraints with doing an award of that type of project and having all reimbursements made by June 30th. So that's where we looked at what materials were there and came to where we are. This is something, it's one of those things that there's not really a home base for somebody to monitor some of these grants and what we have remaining. And so it was one that got lost, and it was through the reminder of the DOT that we were able to come up with something to just utilize the funds.
Okay, so having that background information, on a somewhat separate side note, do you think it would be wise to look into finding out what other grants we may potentially have out there that maybe we haven't spent the money on?
Yeah, I mean, that's something.
I mean, it just seems 7 years seems like a long time for us to not do anything with that money. And could we have bought that track 3 years ago had it been cheaper 3 years, and then,
Yeah, keep in mind, $114,000 is just a very small portion of the grant. We're talking, I believe, over $1 million. So, what remains, I mean, was really not something that was done in any part of the original project. That's where you've got multiple hands involved in sort of projects like this, depending on where they are. It's one of those things that slip through the cracks. For that, I apologize, but I do feel pretty proud sitting here right now saying that we have the ability to buy some higher grade, heavy duty track for cheaper than what the lower grade track is, and basically expend the maximum amount of the grant funds to be reimbursed as possible. And we did this pretty much within a 30-day turnaround. So everybody who says things move at a glacial pace, they don't always move at a glacial pace.
I think we've got to realize Jessica wasn't here, Jason wasn't here, it was all different people and
I guess, I mean, that's my point in
Yeah.
finding out,
Yeah.
having a system, if we change, personnel, that we know what grant money's left out there from person to person. I mean, if you up and left tomorrow, somebody's gonna go, well, I don't know what, so-and-so had on the table.
This is 10 years. I mean, I'm surprised that they didn't pull back the money.
Yeah.
And that's where we've reached that point.
Yeah.
June 30th is
Yeah.
that point where
Right.
it just it ceases to exist.
It sounds like they were a good partner working with us, so. The only comment I have is, Pat, we need to get that track agreement done.
Yeah, and we have it now from the former council who was handling it, and we have reviewed it and are working on it, so.
I would assume we get
It had stalled apparently before due to reasons I don't think weren't the former council's fault. It was just that there were some difficulties they were having with the parties, and then there was a transition, and now we have it, so.
And I would assume the
We're
goal
looking at
is
it
to
too.
get it done this year.
We would like to, and I mean, obviously you want to have you can't get an agreement if you can't get the other side to agree, and that's part of the issue here, but we certainly have an idea of how to crack that nut, and we're going to try to, so, as quickly as we can.
Yeah, if you need help, say so, and I guess we'll.
Well, and it is a requirement of the underlying contract that be agreed to, so it's not that they don't have to agree, they have to agree on something. It's the question of what's the substance, and obviously we didn't have anything to do with negotiating that original deal, and I think people were in a hurry to get the deal done, and that was a loose end, but there were no details provided as to how that had to be roughed out, and now the roughing out has begun, and there's been objections, and there's been counter proposals, and they aren't acceptable to us, so.
And in all fairness, this track agreement's been around almost as long as this money. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been hanging around with,
We had the same problem with the first original spur we put in there with the track agreement, and it got testy, and UP said they would take care of the maintenance on that, so that solved that problem, but we still gotta get our section done.
Right.
Okay, Ed?
so I'll move to go ahead and approve the resolution of the track agreement.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Allison?
Yes?
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes,
Detterman?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Councilman O'Neill?
Thank you. The resolution number 18, approving a change order for Iowa Avenue at 16th and 22nd Place, the rehabilitation project. for $17,821.11. As you read through this, which I'm sure you did, it was noted that the project had additional work similar in nature. It was necessary to reconcile the contract for total payment with the as-built inequalities resulting in an increase of the project. And basically, this is overlooked, I think, in the bidding, and I sit on another committee where someone didn't read a contract right and then wanted another huge increase on a change order because they just made a mistake. And I guess my perspective on that is if they bid the contract and they didn't have this in there because they didn't make allowances for it, they got awarded the contract, and everyone else that didn't get the contract had bid more because they didn't have it in there. So I'm not gonna be real excited about giving someone $17,000 that didn't have it in there in the first place.
I can answer that.
Okay.
It's not a lump sum contract, it's a unit price contract. And so throughout the construction of the project, we authorize things that are unforeseen circumstances like soft subgrades or additional sidewalks that may need to be replaced. I think the sodding quantity ended up being like 0.13 acres more. We didn't measure that till the very end. And rather than incrementally add these as contract change orders, which is just a waste of paperwork, as long as they're small things, and in this case, works out to be less than 2% of the whole project cost. And it's just, like I said, it's just some quantities ended up being more than were bid. And that's through nobody's fault. It's just that it happens on almost every project. Sometimes you use more asphalt than you thought you were gonna. You can't hold exactly at 3 inches throughout an intersection sometimes, so you get a little more. So it's, like I said, if it was a lump sum contract, then I would agree with you, but the scope of work changes. In a unit price contract, the scope of work changes every time an extra piece of sidewalk is added, and that still has to be paid for. And that's part of the contract.
And that's normally the way we do it
Yeah.
with unit prices, because it's fair for both parties.
Right, and you can never, unless you're building, I mean, never a project, I've never had a project where the quantities are exactly the same for every item. Because with paving, it's really just an estimate. So it's commonplace, and these terms are written into the contract. The unit price doesn't change, but the quantity does, and if the quantity changes, then the total price has to change, even though the unit price didn't change. So it's not that much really considered.
I understand, but, even the next one, concrete was inadvertently left off the contract, so there's something was left off the contract.
Now that one-
On project E26.
That was-
I'm just not excited about job changes where someone made a mistake, so.
Yeah, that next one, that was my mistake. I had on the plans on Woodlawn Avenue and Bluff Boulevard, a concrete patch, pointed to it and said it was a certain quantity, and didn't put it on the bid proposal, so it added cost to the project, but it wasn't, in my opinion, it didn't cost any more than it would have had I included it in the proposal, so. No such thing as free work.
Approve that, Ed?
No, not really. Well, I'll make a
I'll
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve number 18.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
No,
Connell,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Councilman Connell.
That was the last one? Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I guess I'll motion to adjourn to 7 PM, June 28th, 2016.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
We'll move right into the committee of the whole. Roll call when you're ready.
Councilmember Seeley,
Here.
McGraw,
Here.
Detterman,
Here.
O'Neill,
Here.
Connell,
Here.
Allison.
Here.
And we have presentation of the keys.
Thank you. Thank you very much, council members. I'm Jim Dobbin, president of the Clinton Rotary. I know most of you around this table in one capacity or another. I just would like to first say that we are complete with our Eagle Point Lodge project, and I would like to thank the city, all of you, as well as people involved and the various department levels with this project. This is a perfect example in my mind of a cooperation between the Rotary Club and the city in developing a project for and a legacy, if you will, for the city of Clinton. And I'm going to have Dee Willoughby come up and make the presentation, as Dee was the driving force in our club behind this project, and he was the catalyst in making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. So the Rotary Club stopped by here about 15 months ago and asked you for permission to do something really cool at the lodge of Eagle Point Park. And you guys said yes, so we'd like to say thank you for saying yes, because without your cooperation and your permission, obviously we couldn't do all that. So we want to thank the mayor in absentia, I guess, and you as a council, and Jessica for that. While it's a significant project for the community, it really, if you look at Rotary International, it's a pretty insignificant thing. When you look at Rotary International, they're curing polio around the world. They're putting wells in countries that don't have clean water. They're helping with literacy initiatives. And so while this can be a big step for our community and can be a pretty cool thing, I kind of think sometimes, golly, why'd we just spend $1 million in a building when you have some of those problems around the world? But the reality is that's what we did. So, so we don't want to lose sight of some of those other opportunities that happen around the world that Rotary is engaged in. So we started with, we came to you and said we wanted to do $1 million project. We ended up spending about a third more than that. We spent about $1,350,000. And we did the project based on what added value to the lodge, not what the cost of the project was. So it was what added value, and we found a lot of things along the way that added value, and so we just kept spending the community's money that had been given to us. To date, we've raised about $1,177,000, and so we've got about 87% of that in the bank in cash, and we'll get the remainder over the next 12 months. So we've got a few dollars to find, so another 150, 200 grand. We've got some banks that are going to work with us over the next 12 months to keep our vendors happy and pay them promptly. And so that's an opportunity for Rotary to close the loop. We'd like to personally just thank Jessica for her leadership on this opportunity. She gave us good guidance along the way and on different issues. We'd like to thank Greg Obrin for his daily and sometime hourly consultations as we try to do the project right. We'd like to thank Jason and Jeff Chapman, here again helping us kind of navigate the rules of the road, which quite frankly we didn't know a lot about those rules, and so they were available and accessible and helpful. And we also want to thank Gary McDermott with the ADA Commission for his insights, and we were able to build a lot of things into the project that quite frankly we hadn't even thought of, and I think it makes for a better building for all those with those kinds of needs. So I should probably have some kind of big key to throw at you or something. I don't. Greg already has all the keys, I think. So I never had a key, so I don't have one to give to you. But I think they are just finishing up the staining on the exterior. Like I said, we did a lot of value-added things that we hadn't anticipated. I
I believe the staining is going to be completed in the next week to 10 days. Rotary is going to have kind of a grand opening and open house. We'd like to invite all of you. It's going to be Tuesday, June 28th from 5 to 7. Be some hors d'oeuvres and light refreshments, that kind of stuff. Ribbon cutting will be at 5 o'clock, so you're invited to that. We'd also like to thank people like Bart Baker, who helped us along the way. We'd like to thank Russell Construction, who was interested in learning more and doing more in Clinton, Iowa, and I think maybe they had a good first push here. I think they did a great job, and I think a lot of the subs that they hired, you know, it's due to their energy and pride that we ended up with the outcome we did. We as Rotary just kind of encourage people along and encourage the community to step up and throw some money at an opportunity. And but when you look at the people that did the work, the Russells and the subs, a lot of them local, a lot of the dollars stayed local. I think they're to be commended too. Just for the record, I'm going to hand you a list of the subs so that you all know who did all the work. And so I'll leave that there. And you know, Kyle, you might even pencil a thank you note. You each take 5 and say thank you, because they just did a cool thing for your lodge. And so in conclusion, the one question I've had asked me just as we go through this process is, so what happens to the lodge after Rotary steps away?
That's up to us.
What happens to the lodge after Rotary steps away? Because quite frankly, the lodge was in disrepair. And it was a city property, and it's one of the coolest properties in town. It's the coolest bluff visual of the river in town. And just because Rotary showed up and said, let's do something cool and let's raise $1.3 million and fix this cool thing, cool things can become really uncool really fast if people don't take care of them. So, as you're looking at budgets in the future, I would recommend that this would not be a line item that would be cut. I would recommend that the lodge at Eagle Point Park, you now have one of the coolest properties on the river. I would recommend you raise your rates, and I think you already have. You now have a property that can be used 365 days a year instead of 52 weekends a year. This can be a revenue generator for the city. And maybe you take some portion of your revenue generation and set it aside for capital annual improvements, or set it aside for annual maintenance. Because that's the one thing I've heard from the community is, I hope it doesn't end up looking like it did pretty soon, because nobody takes care of it. At the end of the day, we're giving the keys back to you, and we're saying thank you for the opportunity to do this. This was a cool project for Rotary. We had fun doing it as a club. It wasn't a Jim Dobbin thing or a D. Willoughby thing. It was a club thing. And we had a lot of Rotarians that were vested in this. So not only are the Rotarians that have put a lot of sweat into this interested in it being maintained, you also had a lot of people in the community in the Midwest that gave a lot of dollars to do this. And just out of respect of their donation to you, the city, as the representatives, we would invite you to take care of it. So thank you very much.
I would like to, Jim and Dee, thank you on behalf of the city for what you and Rotary did. I think you've set the bar pretty high for other groups in town to help out the city. And to answer your question, we passed funding a master plan. It started out for Eagle Point alone, but now we're going to look at all our parks. So I think it is on all our priority lists now. And so I think Riverfront over the years kind of took some of the glory away from Eagle Point, but I think we need to work back on Eagle Point, and I think we will.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Referral from the Finance Committee.
Who's presenting this?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Anita Dalton, the Finance Director. I brought this to our Finance Committee a couple weeks ago as we work through our accounts receivable collections and identify what accounts will be collected in what manner. We do occasionally come across some deceased account holders. And so what you have before you tonight is a list of 7 accounts totaling $13,316.14. I had given information to the Finance Committee about collection efforts that had already taken place and everything that, research that we have, the tools that we have to determine that these individuals are indeed deceased and that we have no course of action against collection on these, no properties that could be liened, because they're probably owned by, or they are owned by other people at this point in time. So,
Going forward, do we need to get like the list of people, so we can put a claim on their estates or that?
well, we do everything that we can in our office to identify if, for example, if an account or if a residence is going up for a sheriff's sale, we're notified by the county. We act on that immediately. We don't always get notification that someone is deceased, but
But should we file claims on their estates?
we have. Well, if there's property to lien, that's the way that we've done it in the past.
Well, but you can also lien their estate, can't you? It's a,
Well, if they have anything.
yeah, if they have
If they
anything,
one.
but.
You would, if you had a lien on property that's going through the estate, what Anita is saying is we would always be notified because the estate would have to do that. But if they if they don't go through probate, and there's no way for us to know that
Well,
they've died, there really isn't anything to collect at that
I'm
point.
thinking if they rent, there wouldn't be any property
Correct.
for like sewer, but
And
wouldn't you still try and file a claim on their estate?
well,
Might not have one.
Yeah, but,
they may not open an estate would be
Oh.
part of the
Oh,
issue,
okay.
and even if they do, we may not be able. There may not be anything in it, and there are issues there.
And
I'm just
when-
looking at better ways to,
Yeah, and one thing that I would ask you to keep in mind is now that we have the ability to disconnect
we won't
water.
have these big claims.
Yeah,
okay.
we're not gonna discover an account that's $5,200 that the person is deceased. We're more on top of collections. We're working through our list from largest to smallest balance, so this should not be this large of a problem in the future. Yes, Councilmember O'Neill?
Thank you. When I read this, I started thinking about 2.5 years ago when we got the news that we had $780,000 in sewer bills that were uncollected, or nothing we could do without it because we couldn't turn off water, and where we've come from then, and a lot of it's due to the due diligence of the finance director and the city administrator, and then, of course, we had the city attorney take on Miller Ridge and get another $500,000. So, we've come a long ways in that 2.5 years, and I think, where we're at now is some of that. I think we, as a group, we need to look at. We're never going to be able to collect, and I think it's probably to our advantage as far as audits and everything else to find some place to put that stuff. So. Things that are there that could be collected that we're probably not going to collect because the people have moved out of town, we give it to the collection agency and let that hang on their credit for 7 years. Realistically, some that we don't. And at at some point, and I talked to Anita about this, that maybe in July kind of give us a state of the union on where we're at with that, and
State of the sewer.
yeah, how much is still left, and at some point, maybe in January, we know where all the past dues are. They're either with collections, they're uncollectible, but we kind of almost zero out some of this stuff from the past, and because she was exactly right, some of the stopgaps we put in that ordinance is they can't go over 120 days and they can't be over $500. So we're never going to have that problem again, and neither will future councils. And we walked into it when we got here, and we've been joined by 2 more that are helping us, council members that are helping us get this resolved. So I think, part of the legacy we leave after we're all off this in 10 or 15 years, whatever, is that this problem could never happen again, so, well,
What?
maybe you'll still be here. Okay, well,
We caught that, Ed.
okay. I'll be, it won't be my problem in 10 or 15 years, but it won't be anyone's problem, and I think that's what we're shooting for. That's, part of what we should leave behind, and that, the sewer bills will no longer be something that's gonna be, something that's gonna outrage our 99% of our citizens that, pay their bills and stuff. So, hopefully we'll get those all cleared up, and if it's down to zero of things that are left over to be paid, and people are on, whether on payment contracts, that's fine. I don't think that should be something negative. It's, I think it's money we collected that we never had before. So, well, thank you for a good job and, getting this stuff put together and moving us, forward with it, and, hopefully by July we'll have a report.
I'd like the motion that we move or approve the finance director's able to write this debt off as deceased accounts.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
Detterman?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Number 3, 2080 agreement for the purchase and maintenance of computer-aided dispatch and records management software system. Chief.
Mayor, City Council, Kevin Jerian, Chief of Police. I'm here with the 2080 agreement and the purchasing contract for Zerker software. This software was recommended, not this particular software, but a software upgrade was recommended by the staffing study. So we're in a 2080 agreement with the Clinton County Sheriff, Comanche, DeWitt, and Clinton County Communications. We require to sign a 2080 because we're using a CCDA money, so our share is virtually covered for CCDA grant. We have a small maintenance fee down the line, 3 years down the line or 2 years down the line. But the whole agreement was presented to the city attorney. He approved it and went over it, so we're looking to get it signed.
Questions?
Good.
I just had a question. I guess it's a software change, correct? Not just an update? Or
It's
is
a
it-
change, a complete change.
Complete
The
change, right?
system we use now is outdated, in my opinion. This is a much better system.
Okay. Are you guys gonna be able to pull in information from the old system to the new system? I know with software changes, they can be a nightmare, but
It's whatever you put in, you get out. So
Yeah.
we're determining how much junk we're gonna put in from the old system.
garbage in, garbage out.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's still to be determined. but
Okay.
It's gonna be a better system.
But
Okay.
this is the system the county sheriff uses, and so
We're
you'll
all-
all be on one system?
We're all gonna be on the same system, correct?
But it's basically in-car systems too. I mean,
It's
so
everything.
the
It's
officers
gonna-
can pull it up
It's
immediately,
everything. It's gonna be our
right?
computer system, our report system, our mapping, crime mapping, everything.
Okay.
Great.
So it's gonna help the department be more efficient?
It's
You're
gonna
happy
improve
with
us. Absolutely.
it? Okay, that's what I need to know. I'll make
This
a
was a-
motion to move it forward. The next
Second?
meeting.
Thank you. Roll call vote?
It's easy.
Councilmember McGraw?
Yes.
Detterman?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
Number 4, amendments to Chapter 52 Sewer Use Ordinance. Bob.
Bob Milroy, Water Quality Superintendent. Back when I first took over as superintendent, there were some things that need to be upgraded in the sewer use ordinance from way back to when the new plant was put into service. And it's just loading numbers, what the new plant is capable of doing, as far as organic loading and hydraulic loading and so forth. So I wanted to get that put into our ordinance, and when I got into that, I realized there's quite a few more updates that probably need to be done. And some of the, I'll just touch on some of the main things. There's a lot of things in the current ordinance that, such as doing inspections of sewer connections, which is done by Jason's office. Inspections, permitting, and installation of new sewers, all that's is currently done out of Jason's office. So we just changed some wording in the sewer use ordinance to put city engineer to where it did say water quality superintendent before. We're just trying to get this ordinance more current to the way we're currently doing business within the city. And there's also some language in there about, checking grease, inspecting grease interceptors, the installation of grease interceptors, which is being currently done by the BNS office. So that got changed to BNS director.
I have a question about that, actually. I think in one of the reports that you had submitted, council reports you'd submitted, in the last month or so, you were out doing inspections on.
Yes. Those are.
So it's, currently it's not being done out of
Well,
BNS?
what I was doing several months ago was fog inspection, which is fats, oils, and grease. I'm going out there and making sure that the restaurants are maintaining their grease interceptors.
Okay,
What the BNS department is doing when they do a permit
right.
to do any sort of kitchen renovation or something, they're ensuring that they're putting a grease interceptor in and that it's properly sized.
Okay. So they're gonna make sure they're in, but then you're gonna do the inspection on them.
Yes.
So that really doesn't change.
No.
Okay.
No, that's still the same. And then I got down, we had to go with the loading, how many pounds of BOD, suspended solids, ammonia, that the current treatment plant is capable of treating. And that is an EPA mandate kind of thing. That's the reason I had to get that in there. Then I also had to list our toxic and objectionable waste, which is basically all the heavy metals. One of the other bigger changes, and when you get in the world of industrial pre-treatment, which I always tend to say I'm like the sewer police with the industries.
Can you go back to the toxic and objectionable waste? What do you mean by that?
I'll read it off here to you.
And do we have any?
We have one industry that is the heavy metals. It deals with heavy metals. It is industrial waste, arsenic, cadmium, chromium, copper, cyanide, lead, mercury, molybdenum, nickel, selenium, silver, and zinc.
Like machine and tool places, or?
Well, those kind of places will have it. Like there's a industry here in town that does refrigerator shelving that deals with zinc.
Okay.
And we have to be very careful of those because of our biosolids. That's where all that stuff is removed, is in the biosolids that go out on the farmer's fields. So if there's too much chromium, then that's going to cause problems with that farmer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Cows with 3 years.
In the world of industrial pre-treatment, what sums up the best, I'm like the sewer police for the industries. We issue them permits, and they are given specific limits where they can discharge to our treatment plant. Well, if they don't comply with the limits, there's a certain number of steps you take for enforcement. And we have what we call an enforcement response plan that lays that out. The way the current ordinance was written, even the most minor step, it was falling on the council to deal with. And I didn't think you wanted to deal with that so much. So the way I did it, I changed all that over to myself all the way through, but at the end, the final step, if they feel whatever I give them as a directive is unfair, that they can appeal to the city council. And then, one of the other changes I made was, there's just some wording changes. There was like once, the permanent duration for industrial pretreatment, I put up to 3 years, where I just said 3 years. We made a change as far as if you want to apply for a septic tank within the city limits, you gotta have 3 acres, where I believe it was 2 acres before.
Why was it changed to 3?
That's something Jason had input on. He just felt that,
Have we been having problems?
well, we've had one situation come up recently with an industry that wanted to put one in for a small guard shack.
Okay.
And, that's what brought it to light, but I guess I can't speak to what Jason's logic was on
Jason's
that.
here, and I'd like to know.
Why did we change that to 3? 3 acres for septic tanks?
Well, I looked into what some other communities do, and
The county does too,
the
correct?
county does too. The 2 is the state
Yeah.
minimum. We can be more restrictive than that if we want.
I guess what's the goal there? Why do we have to be?
Well, the goal is we want them to tie into our sewer.
The
So what if
goal
it's,
ultimately is to get as much waste to the treatment plant as possible so that it can be treated.
Well,
That's
so
not
you've
something
got
that's-
someone
that's
with
not something we have to do. There's a
2.5
lot of stuff we do.
acres. They've got a septic system.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we're changing this to 3. They gotta, if there's city sewer available, they gotta hook up.
Now, they would have to hook up anyway, but if they're within a certain distance.
Okay.
But it's just for new
What's
permits.
what's the distance?
New septic permits.
600 feet?
No.
That's another thing, is changing from 200 to 300 feet, except for when it's, see, the code just says whenever reasonable, so it's up to the city to dictate that, it's a different subject. And or less than 200 feet. We've had some instances where there's a property that's only like 250 feet away, and in my viewpoint, it's cheaper and more reasonable to run a gravity sewer to the city sewer than install a septic tank, but per our old ordinance, they could still install the septic tank, septic field.
Now, so what was it prior to though? We got 400 and 200. What was it prior to?
It was just 200 before.
So anything within 200 feet had to hook
Regardless
up.
of whether it was requiring pumps or
Yep.
force main or gravity. And so, but the Iowa code says it's up to the jurisdiction, but within reason. And I feel that it is within reason to say that anyone who's within 400 feet of a gravity, of a city sewer and get there by gravity, should and can be within reason be made to install a sanitary sewer service instead of a septic tank.
Well,
Septic.
now what about the dwellings that already have septic systems?
That's doesn't matter. They already have. This only covers new.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if somebody's septic
Where does
system
it
were to fail,
Then you'd have to hook
then
up?
they no, because if sewer's not, yeah, if you're within those ranges.
Yeah.
But if your septic system fails and you're on it's provided you can get a permit with the county sanitarian for a septic field.
Yeah.
But if your septic system fails, hypothetically, you're on a quarter-acre lot, but you're 500 foot from city sewer, you still have to find a way to do it. I mean,
So,
you'd
but
have to have your own sewage treatment.
so right now, here's what my concern is. There's people around town on septic, right? Their system's working fine. Are we gonna start going around town and saying, hey, you gotta hook up to city sewer?
No.
That's not what this is
That's
intended
what
to
this
read
is
as.
intended.
Okay, this is for new construction,
This
or
is
if your
all
system
for-
fails.
This is all for new construction.
Where's
Oh,
the
okay.
language in here that discusses grandfathered type dwelling?
This is somewhat of a condensed version of the sewer use ordinance.
I got on and read the whole thing that's already on there, and it doesn't talk about it either, so maybe that needs to be addressed.
Could
That
be. Although I think that I don't have the whole version. I don't have any of the ordinance with me, but
I was gonna say, and that's where the sewer use ordinance is huge. That's why I put
Yeah.
together all of these sections and identified which ones didn't change or we were not recommending a change to, so that we didn't have an additional 50 pages in the packet.
It doesn't have a thing for grandfather, but it does have a section in there for. I'm sorry. It doesn't have anything there about being grandfathered, but it does say that the new 3 acres is for new
yeah,
septic.
it just says you can't construct a new.
Right.
It
Well,
says,
Construct a new septic field, you'd have to be
3 acres.
more than 400 foot by gravity, or more than 200 foot by, and more than 200 foot total minimum, and you have to have 3 acre lot.
it
but-
says right here, this restriction shall only apply to lots or parcels created after the effective date of this subchapter.
Yeah, that's
Now-
a good point.
Oh, okay. So if you've got a subdivision not available to city sewer, and they set it up with 2 acre parcels, which meet the county requirement for septic system, we would not allow it.
Right, that's correct. In this,
I guess
With
I
this
don't
division.
understand why we're trying to be more restrictive than what the standard is right now.
that's just a matter of preference. I mean, I
But
think
what's it
it's-
gonna benefit?
I think it benefits the city as a whole. It'll benefit the subdivision down the line. I mean, 100 years from now, if you don't want dirty, stinky sewage water in your yard, I mean, it's a matter of preference, really.
Can you
And so
explain,
there's a lot of cities that have different.
can you explain to me, you apply to the county for a
If you want a
permit
septic
for,
tank-
it's something to do with the perk and,
This is why, it's because there's many different ways of disposing of your sewage. Like if you're on a quarter acre lot, they're gonna make you put a giant tank in and pump it out every 30 days. If you're on a 5 acre parcel, you can likely just have a properly sized septic field. So there's
And
gonna be
they do, there are places where the soil's not right and they can't even put them in, right?
Right, or they have to have a tank, or if
Or
they're in the
tank, or-
floodplain, they
or
have to
liner.
floodproof it. So what happens is the county sanitarian first calls us and says, can they have a septic tank, field, whatever, cesspool? And we either just say yes or no, and then they give the permit. Our yes or no is based on, are they available to city sewer, and is their lot size appropriate? So the thought behind the 3 acres was just cleanliness, just general quality of life in subdivisions within a city, which is very common. Cities are often, and most of the time, more restrictive than the counties.
I think we gotta keep in mind our land area here.
Right.
We're stretched out into the
Yeah.
county a long ways, so, the standard's 2 acres. And I understand what you're saying, especially when you get closer to town or whatnot, but there's a lot of instances here where you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're in the city limits.
Correct.
And
There's a lot of 2 acre lots in town
Yeah.
though that are right upstream of city sewer or someone's backyard with a drainage area going through there, and it's kinda like, so if you set a limit of 2 acres within Mill Creek Parkway, 3 acres within Mill Creek Parkway and 2 acres outside of, I can see that, or, I mean, you're probably right. And why be more restrictive? We
I guess
seem like a good idea.
No, I get your. I think we get too ahead of ourselves sometimes. I like how you think ahead, but I mean, going above and beyond what the county's doing and stuff. I don't know if
That's
that's
just
really
my-
necessary.
I agree with you. I think you're right, but I was just thinking we're more condensed.
Yeah.
The county is, I mean,
But
a lot of times
per
your parcels
capita,
are
we
out in
have
the middle of
the
nowhere, right?
yeah.
You know, so-
Well, yeah, and we have,
For-
we're a big city for our land area.
Okay. But you gotta keep in mind, the restriction of the 2 acres for the county is really not predicated on septic tanks or sewer system. The county requires 2 acres to build a house. If you don't have 2 acres, you can't even build a house. That's the restriction of the county for 2 acres. It has nothing to do with septic. So, if you have an acre and 3/4 and you wanna build a house on it and you're in the county, you can't do it. It has nothing to do with your septic. There's a lot of clients that we have that want to build on grandpa's 1 3/4 acres, and they're in the county, and you cannot get a permit to build a house on there. So it really has not a lot to do. I think the 3 acres for inside the city is a good idea, because first of all, like you said, we want to get all the sewage we can get processed, and when those things go bad, you don't get a second chance. It's in the field and it's in the streams, and then it's once it's in the streams and it gets to the river, then you got the DNR involved. So, if you're going to build something on 3 acres and you want a septic, that's fine. But if it's 2 acre subdivision and they're split up in 2 acres, it needs to be on the city sewer.
I agree with your thought. Could we maybe, if it's in, within some reasonable footage, could the city participate in the sewer part, like half price or something, to encourage people to hook up the
Oh, yeah,
sewer?
for the distance, that's up to you, and that's good policy, so it's not seen as, and I think the main thing is,
We kinda want it so they won't even think about putting in septic if there's a sewer around.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
my thought is they wouldn't wanna hook up, cause the one example we had last year, they were only like 300 feet from the city sewer, and it would've been half the cost, I think, to run the sewer and connect into ours, rather than put a septic field in, but they were on like a 3 acre lot. They put a septic field in, but then they don't have the sewer built.
Yeah.
No, but if they have a backup, they've got a bigger problem than you.
Right.
Well, and they gotta pay to pump out that septic tank periodically also.
Yes,
You know,
yearly, I think.
I
in
agree, if it's
some.
reasonable distance
Yeah.
and stuff,
It,
but I agree with the 2 acres too.
well, and I'm wondering here, do you have any idea how many houses right now have a septic system that are within this 400, 200 rule?
No, I would have
No
idea on
clue.
that.
Yeah.
There's some houses right in the middle
There's a
of,
list
right
of
in the middle of
finance
blocks that all hooked to city water and have their own
Septic systems,
septic,
yeah.
up in.
I feel very strongly that someone that is 400 foot away by gravity, I think that we have every right within reason
to, when they're building new, to by ordinance say that they should connect into the city sewer. Now, the 2 to 3 acre thing, that's sort of a matter of preference, but I think that there's been enough times where I really think that the right thing to do would have been to connect the sewer, but they were just